Hello there. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the basics of assembly in Inventor 2021. In the last couple of videos, I talked about some of the basics of part. So check that out if you haven't seen those. There's good information there. So I'll be showing a assembly just to show what we'll be making this video. So let me change this view to visuals, shade with edges. Shade with edges is the best. I definitely should use that. Just recommending. So here you'll see that there's multiple parts here. It's not one thing. So if you hover over like any piece, it'll highlight over here. Or if you hover over here, it'll highlight on the screen. And these are different parts that are put into the assembly. In this assembly, there are two other assemblies that are put inside an assembly. So you can do that. You can do as many levels as you want, as much of an assembly section as you want. Um, but let's get to what it is. So an assembly is when you have multiple parts together. And here there's multiple parts. This. You can just see all this type of squares. These are all parts. Those are assemblies. And now, uh, you normally, before you make an assembly, should have a couple of the pieces that you're going to put together already designed in CAD. For instance, this is one of them. Here, let me right click, it's right click, and then open to view it in its own separate tab of sorts. And here you'll see this is the VersaFrame that was created. It's pretty basic. You just extrude out a rectangle with a square, technically, right? A square with another square inside that has a thickness of, I believe this is 0.1, seems like a 0.1. And then, yeah, let me just check. I believe it's 0.1. Yeah, 0.1. That is one of the verse frames thickness. I just chose that one. And from there, you can make holes so that in real life, you would put uh, nuts and bolts through it to secure it down with gussets so that they can attach. Because verse frame doesn't bend. I mean, you can bend it, but in this case, you don't want to bend it. You want to try and connect them in a different way. So you'd use these gussets right here to connect them so they would hold together. And then I didn't add any bolts, but you would theoretically add bolts and all that. So you want to make sure you line up holes and all that when you're making gussets so that it fits. So that you can if you were to theoretically place bolts in there, they would actually fit through it. There would be holes to go through and all that. So this is a basic verse frame. And let me show the gusset. Gusset, you can not only hold it over here, but if you select it, hover over it, and then right click, you can go up and open it, and it'll take you to here. And then you can look at it. It's pretty basic. Um, this is, oh, this specific gusset was gotten from Vex Pro, I believe. But you can always design your own gusset should you want to. It's basically like an L shape, two rectangles, and then just do some holes through. And yeah, that would be about it. So after you have these already designed, you would put them together in this. How would you put them together? You would first, let's go to the assemble tool, and you would place these objects. Here, let me open up another assembly to recreate this. Um, do that. So let's place those objects. Let me open it. You have to find where it is, and then let's just open it up. So you want to make sure you have the thing. So I just double clicked it. It opens it up automatically, or you can click it and then press OK. You can rewind and look at the OK button or that it. So here you'll see where you can apply it. So you can just if you click the left click, it'll place one, and then you can place more if you want. You can always just press escape or right click and cancel or OK to stop putting more down. But there's also another tool. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. So yeah, here you'd click it. Um, oh, Yeah, click that and then press open. Sorry, not OK. It's open. And should you want your VersaFrame to be in a different orientation, for instance, going upright, then you can rotate it. If you can do trial and error to figure out which one, and then there you go. So you can put that relatively close, so you can just shape it up. It won't perfectly go because I mean this right now isn't constrained, it's just eyeballing it. So let's just put there. Let's just make a square for now. X, because X is the red, Y is the green, and then Z is the blue. So you can like do those to like figure out by looking. Okay, so you'll see that these are all jumbled up. Let's first make it into visual shaded with edges. Shaded with edges, especially in assembly, helps tremendously because now you can actually see the faces. And faces are very important when constraining, especially when constraining flat edges to flat edges. So let's make a square. Square will be, well, maybe not even a square, just a rectangle of sorts. So you will be using a tool called Constraint. Constraint is when you take a face and a face and put them together in a certain thing. So there is either the mate constraint, which is, let me show you. You click mate, click the first one, the face. You don't want to click edges. Edges will cause an axis, so it'll be able to rotate. But a face, which you'll see comes up like that, you'll see the face is selected, will go flat against whatever other face that you choose. So let's choose this face. There you go. And there, it gives you a preview. You can press apply, and then there it is. So now let's cancel so that we can see. So right now, this VersaFrame, these two, sorry, this VersaFrame can move side to side, but it cannot move up and down. Oh, I forgot. So make sure when you're starting out and making an assembly, you should always have at least one piece that is grounded. And to ground a piece, you'll just choose one and right click and go down and ground it. So that when you're making it, everything is solid, so that you know that there is no more degrees of motion, degrees of freedom that can cause it to move around. So now we can see that it's not going to move. Oh, oh yeah, no, it's not going to move up and down. It'll just move side to side. Underneath that. It'll just look weird because of the viewing angle, but that's all right. So now let's add more constraints. The next constraint is called a flush constraint. Flush is side to side. It is, what is it? Parallel. Sorry. This and this. That's flush because it is completely flush up against each other. They are next to each other, perfectly smooth, of sorts, like that. That's how it is. And apply, and then you do the same thing for this. And then you can just right click on it, or sorry, left click, and then try and drag it around. If you can't move it around, that means it's completely constrained. Sometimes you want it to be completely constrained, sometimes you don't, depending on what type of application you're doing it in. The next one, let's do it again. So let's say I'll make a quick mistake on purpose to show. So let me just delete this, and let me replace it in a different orientation. So let me rotate by 90. No, X, Y, yes. Okay, so let's say we need that to be to go perpendicular to this verse frame. So if we don't want to Control Z or delete and then replace, we can do what is called rotating it. I mean, you already know what rotate is. So the button free rotate, you have to first choose the object that you want to rotate. You choose it, and then you press free rotate, and then you rotate it until the way that you want it. Just after a couple like circling around, you'll be able to get the one that you want, and then you can just click it again to or escape, and then that's that. So right now you'll see that it is at an angle, unlike all the other ones which are on the same type of axis. They're straight up and down, those type of stuff. But it's all right because when you constrain, it'll automatically correct itself. So let's do that. Oh, and another thing. So you'll notice here that on the verse frame that I've created, these holes do not match up. They alternate of sorts. This is so that in real life, if you were to put bolts in any one of them, you wouldn't have to, they wouldn't crisscross because should you have put this hole over here, then they would crisscross and get in each other's way when trying to put bolts in, if you're trying to do that for a certain thing. So only one of those holes would be usable. So if you move it up slightly, halfway, which is what I did here, then you can use both of them in any situation. And they wouldn't interfere, because on the inside, if the bolts are crisscrossing, then I mean, it's not like CAD. The real world, you can't put things inside each other. Um, Anyways, let's constrain this piece to this. Let's do a flush constraint. And let's say you accidentally choose the wrong thing. You can always just go back to the selection, re-click it, and reselect. And then take your second selection, and then do it. So if it looks like it isn't perfectly done, you can just rotate the angle. You'll see that it is. It just looks weird from different angles. So press apply, and then you can continue on making more constraints. Apply, and final one. Let's do it. Apply. Okay, so now that is done. So from here on, you have the final and fourth piece. So all of these are already constrained. So you could constrain this to this or this to this. It really doesn't matter. You can pick and choose, but just be careful, because if you change something, then you'll have to figure out which one you did it to. And you can see that. So I'll show you how that is after I put this on. So let's put this onto here, these two. Let's constrain. Constrain, I believe, is the C key on demand, on default settings for keybinds for Inventor, but you can always change it. Let's put that as a mate constraint. Yes. And then let's flush the rest. There you go. And there you go. So now it all is looking together. But this is all just put together. You want to have some kind of a reinforcement so that when you do make it in real life, it is actually usable. So next we will add the gussets. Gussets, 90-degree gussets. Open them up, and you'll see that, like those, they're at a different angle. So you can try and mess around with it by rotating it, like Y, and then that, and then putting it in like the relative location, because it's really hard to get it perfectly. You see how far it is, but it's all right because you can always constrain it later to make it proper. But try and keep it in one viewing area and then do it. Let's just put it like this, and then we can just free rotate it with that and then do it. So let me escape, deselect it. Another thing that you can see is to figure out which one of these are grounded. The grounded tool will have a pin through the cube or part or whatever it is, even assembly. If you should put assembly in here, then that'll be it. Okay, so let's constrain these. Let's press that. So why not? Okay, so it doesn't matter which side you go through. Let's just put this on this face for now. Apply. Let's put these, let's rotate around again. Let's put these on this face. Apply. You also want to apply so that you don't forget. Let's put that on this face. Apply. That. Oh, there. Apply. All right. So now you see that it is done. So now it can move, but it'll be touching this backside, the back or the left side of it, depending on how you made it. So let's first constrain this one in here. So let's just try and orient it so that the holes are somewhat matching up. You'll see the holes are matching up like this. So what you can do is here, we will do a different type of constraint. You can constrain it such that the constraints are flush on the top with this top and this top, or this side and this side, but let's do it more realistically. How would you put this onto this verse frame in real life? You would put bolts through the holes, and to do that, the holes would have to be concentric, or I'm sorry, it's probably not the proper word. They have to be on the same axis for each of those holes. And so to do that, you press constrain, you select the radius, I mean the circular portion of it. Make sure you have that type of arrow that shows up, the axis type of arrow. You don't want the green dot. The green dot means it's the face of the circle, but the arrow means it's that axis. Let's select that axis and this axis, and now they're completely, they are on the same axis. Yeah, they're on the same axis now. So apply, and then let's go to, so right now you'll see that this is touching up against this from the make constraint that we made, and now this can only rotate from this constraint that we did here. So now to ground it finally, let's do one more axis constraint. Let's constrain choosing the axis, and it'll immediately change it to a different type. You'll see, now it changes it. So there are different ways that you can constrain these. You can mess around with it. This is just flipping it around or changing how it is. So let's just apply. And now this one is constrained because you can't move it around. Let's see. You can't move it. It's grounded. It's stuck where it is. It's constrained, fully constrained. But you'll say that, oh, look, only two of them are constrained, but there is total five. That's all right. As long as you can see that these are the ones that are meant to be constrained, that are meant to be bolted in real life, then you'll know to bolt them. Later on, you would add bolts there if you wanted to make it completely nice and clean and all that. But for right now, we just want to get the purpose across that these are the five holes that are going to line up with the verse frame. So let's do the same thing here. But first, we have to figure out which side is going to, which holes are going to match up. So let's just move this over and see. See, all the holes are lining up pretty well. They're all inch apart. So we can put this in the corner as we did here first. Let's do it. Select the axis way. And same thing here. And there you go. Apply. And let's say that, here, let me Control Z. Let me Control Z and make a quick mistake on purpose. So let's say I accidentally constrained this one, this circle, to this one on accident. So now, and press apply. Okay, so now how would I get rid of it? You can do a couple things. One, you can right click and then show constraints, which is relationships here. Relationships, and you'll see this is one of the relationships. This is the axis one. If you hover over it, you'll see what is exactly involved. And this is the mate one that we did. We don't want to touch that. We'll just hover over this, right click, and delete. Or you could also do this. Let me just Control Z to bring that back. You can, so you know this is a gusset. So if you look over here while hovering over this, you'll see it is this one in specific. So if you do the drop down, the plus button, you'll go to different mates. You'll go to different constraints. And if you hover over these, you'll see which ones are involved, just as I did when I was here. So let's do that. You'll want to get rid of this one. So you just right click and delete, and it's gone. So let's say that you did this way, where you showed the relationships and we're deleting the constraints on here. Oh yeah, over here you can just press and bring it back up. So if you just hover over this and press it again, you can hide all relationships. Or you could also, let me just bring it back, you can hide all relationships here if you wanted. And at the same time, there's also a show. So if you select the gusset and press show, it'll show all the relationships that are included. If you, let me just hide relationships again. If I select the whole thing and press show, it shows everything. But let's just hide all because I don't need to see, we don't need to see all that. It'll just get confusing. So now that this is out of that incorrect constraint, we will add it back to this corner. So let's do that. Let's constrain. Let's choose that. You can zoom in as much as you want. Make sure that you can see that circular and the axis that pops up. And apply. And let's do the other ones as well. So there, 2 should be good enough. So now it cannot move. Yeah. Now let's do these ones. I'll quickly do this. It's the same thing. Let me actually show you what happens when you do this. Okay, so we are right now, before we press apply, we are right now in this one. If we change it to this, it won't do anything, especially in this situation, because the way that it's already constrained doesn't make a difference. If this was not constrained to the uh, this wasn't already mated to it, it would change slightly. In different scenarios, sometimes this piece flips or goes to the backside. There's different ways with different pieces, different parts. When you're CADing, you can mess around with it, and you'll see, for instance, if you do a bearing, and if you change this, it'll flip over so that if you're using a flange bearing, it will be on the outside or on the inside, depending on what you want. So that's just trial and error, and you can mess around with it. Or you can always just free rotate and which direction you want it to be. So let's just press apply, and let's do one more. Select it? Did I select it? No, I did not. So let me reselect. If you can't get the proper one that you want, try and zoom in so you can select it. Oh, so you'll see here, it's not showing the preview. That's because this is too far away. This is the wrong hole. Let me reselect the hole again. This one, I believe. Yes, there you go. And it shows it. Apply, and that's good. Let's move this, cancel. Let's move this, constrain. Or actually, let me show you another tool. Unlike constraint, let me cancel this. So right now, this is not constraint. I mean, it's only constrained with the mate, but that's all right. If you go down to the relationships, there's assemble. Assemble is like constraint, but it is not as strong. Strong as in constrain is like the final rule of where it goes. Constrain, assemble, will just show how it can be put together. It can be changed and it can be overridden, things like that. So let's just do this. This, you will see the axis is selected. Select that, and then you can select which axis you want. That, so there you go. And now let's just go into this. This is the fourth gusset. If we go into here, it'll have a different type of assembly. I personally like Constrain more because Constrain has more properties to it, and there's more things that you can do with it. But I have seen people use Assemble, and Assemble is useful in some scenarios. So let's just stick to Constrain. I suggest Constraining, but Assemble is also there in case you don't like Constrain. But please do like Constrain because Constrain is useful. Let's just constrain this again. And we will be done with this final assembly. So let me just choose this one. And I believe it's this hole. Correct. And we are done with this assembly. So this will be this side. So you'll see on this assembly, there's two other assemblies inside the assembly. And that is this. So if you were to make an assembly and you wanted to edit this assembly, but you didn't want to open it all the way up, like the right click, open, and open another tab, you could instead double click on it and it would show you it as though it is in another tab, but it'll be in relation to everything else. So you could edit it as you wanted and all. But be careful because if you edit these pieces, then they may mess with some constraints that you already have. Because if lengths don't match up, then other things might change and it gets a little messy. So try and make sure you know what's exactly going to change before changing it. And you can always press the Control Z so that it just goes back to the way it was and you can figure out a different way. So if you were in this assembly, because this is another assembly, so you'd have to double click again, and then you could, oh, it goes to this. Let's just close out of this. If you were to double click on this, it would open up the part. Yes, the part. And you can edit it as though you were in the part tab. Same way as it's in the assembly. So if you were to return to the main thing, you'd go to here and press return, and then press return again, and then you go back to the main one. But let's say you were in a couple levels deep, and you were like in an assembly, like just super far in. If you wanted to go all the way back to the main assembly that you're in, you just press return to top, and it goes back to the top, the big one. And you can just close out of all of these things because these open, just to keep your sidebar neat. There. And let's move on. Let's make sure you save this to someplace. Let's save as. Save this to, I believe it's in here. Yes, project. And let's just name this side part. Side face. Oh, I'm on caps lock. Side face. Side face versus frame. Just to keep it specific, and because you have to have your own way of naming stuff, so you know where everything is. Let's save it. And now let's open up another assembly where we make up the rest of the cube, shape, whatever. That. So open another assembly. And now let us place in the first assembly that we made. And let's go to it. You have to find it. So you can press this button to go out of folders. First, sorry. Let's go back in. Wrong one. Project. And there it is. This is the one. It sometimes it shows a preview if it's already an Inventor file. So let's use that. Let's open it. And so let's put one and let's put another. But let's rotate it so it faces the opposite direction. Let's press Y, Y, so there. Now it's good. Let's just change the view to shade with edges because it's beautiful. And there you go. So now we have the two faces, just like here. That face and that face to highlight. So now let's do the middle pieces, pieces that connect these two together to make it a full structure. Let's add those in, which would just be more of the same pieces, the parts that you created. Make sure that you have the parts in a specific location, because assembly is merely just pulling the parts or assemblies from wherever the file is located. So make sure you don't change it and mess around with it after doing it. Even changing the name can sometimes cause many different things to happen. So always be careful of what's happening. And I would suggest normally if you're going to change a part that is pretty complex, first make a copy of it and then change that. And then if it works, save that as the new one and then delete the old one. But if it doesn't, it's all right. You have a backup. So let's go on to my thing. I forgot where it is. There it is. And let's open up some more first frame. Open them up. Let's rotate this. 1, 2, 3, 4, because the 4 corners. And then we will need a bunch of gussets. But let's first constrain these to the cube to figure out how many gussets we really need. Let's constrain them. So let's constrain. Right. Let's first start with this one. So the way I'm going to do it, oh, that's incorrect. Sorry. Maybe do that. Cancel. So the way I'm going to do it, this is not going to end up like a cube because this right now is, I believe, 17 inches long, the squares, and these are 16 inches, which will cause this whole cube to end up being 18 inches. Yeah, 18 by 16 by 18 by 17 by 17. Right? I'm probably right. We can always measure it at the end if we wanted to. So let's constrain. Keep on going away from it. Yes. This. And this is a make constraint on accident. So we can just press flush and it'll be that. So right if it's inside each other, we can just pull it out and change it. Let's do more. Strain the outer faces. This. Flush though. And apply. Now, you'll see that this is on the opposite side. So you can either drag it all the way through or you could free rotate it. It's your choice. I believe actually the free rotate wouldn't work because this is only one, it's already constrained in 2 directions. So there's no point. Let's just finish this up. Oh. Okay, this might be a problem. Nah, it's all right. All right, we move. Constrain this face to be mated. And apply. So I'll just go go through all these. There's quite a few, and then I'll be back here when it's done. Welcome back. I am almost done, but I remembered a couple things that I need to talk about for this. Make sure that when you're constraining, this is the proper constraint, because as you saw, if you don't do the proper one and change it after you select both of them, it sometimes gets a little wacky. So make sure that you already have the proper one selected before going through with it, before selecting both of them. The proper solution, as it says here, but mate or flush, what it is. So here, select the first one and then change it, and then do that. And also, one thing that I forgot to do during this new assembly, you have to make sure that at least one of the things are grounded, and we didn't do that. So let me just select that and ground it to make sure that it's grounded. And now you will see that everything is, oh, I must have clicked on an accident. Okay, so now you'll see that everything is now in place. It's not moving. That's because everything is grounded. I mean, everything is constrained to a grounded piece, so nothing is supposed to move if everything is properly constrained. You can also always see if everything is properly constrained if you select all over it, and then if you double click, press I properties, and then go into, I believe, occurrences, and then degrees of freedom. If you select that and press apply, close it, you will see that if there wasn't a degree of freedom, you see an arrow. So let me go into this one, and let's delete a couple of constraints. You'll see, look, there is a green arrow here. That's because it's showing that this piece can move this way. And there is 3 total degrees of freedom that will be shown. But I have always learned there's 6 degrees of freedom. But it's just 3 pairs. So let's delete this one and delete this one as well. There you go. So now you'll see that it can move in any direction. That's why there's 3 arrows or 3 axes. But there's 6 different directions that can go: forward, backward, left, right, up, down, depending on what view you're looking at it. So let's just Control Z to put all those back. And yeah, so you can always just, if you want to, sorry, not the right click, you want to do left click, and oh no, left click, selecting everything, and then right click, I properties, change it, occurrence, untoggle it, apply, and close it. And there you go. So that is something that you can do to see degrees of freedom should you be confused on whether everything is properly constrained. So now you'll notice that this looks like a cube, but it isn't a cube. I'll measure it at the end. Let's first add some more gussets. So let's add gussets over here, here, and let's actually keep it same. So let's add one here, 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 and then at the bottom the same thing. I believe they will fit, so let's just add them in. And we can always change up where we're going to put it depending on what we want. Let's place a component. I just did right click and up. You can also, this is a cool fact, if you right click, you'll see all these things, correct? You can then drag right click up and place component. Just like if you press right click, up is place component, or if you go sideways, measure, the measure tool, or constrain, that's pretty cool. I personally don't use that too much. I just use the keys, but that is a thing. Let's place components, place some more gussets. Right here, let's just put corners down, and then let's do the bottom. Oh, it's lagging. There, and then, did I put it right? I believe so, yes. It's right there, okay. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's do the bottom first, just because it looks the most like out of place, and it can be the hardest one to do if you change the view already. If you do a free rotate panning, as it says. Let's apply that. I believe this is a mate. Yes, it is a mate constraint. You can see that. If it's inside, if like the gusset is overlapping with the VersaFrame, you can always just redo the constraint by deleting it or Control Z, that type of thing. So let's do the mate constraints first, and then we'll move on to the rotary constraints. That's okay. I think that's the right word. Rotary constraints afterward. Apply it. Now let's. Okay, and let's do the top side. Ooh, hi. And one more thing, you should always be aware of which object you select first. Because if this, let's say that I didn't ground this cube, the structure first, if I selected this piece and then selected this face, and then this face second, this would go over there, unlike this coming over here where everything else is. So that is just something to keep in mind. It'll change how the preview works. So yeah, lagging a little bit. There it is. All right, everything is attached. So now let us do the final constraining, the rotary constraints, as I did. So you can just estimate what is it? Trial and error. You can just try that. So apply, and then let's just rotate this around and see if it's, oh, it works, it works. So then let's just do another one, that one right there. So let's do it. And if you're wondering how I'm hitting the constrain button without hitting the constrain button, how I'm constraining, I'm pressing the C button. So that's a thing. So it just helps speed up. But I can always do this so that people can actually see. It's good to get the fundamentals down before trying to do all these shortcuts. So let me just try and put it in some orientation. Okay, so this looks good. Let's do that one. Constrain that the axis is a constraint axis. Okay, then more axes. Axis, axis, apply. There. Now you'll see this is not moving. Let's do the same things for these. Constraint. Let's try this one. I believe it's this one. Guess. Ooh, okay. Looks good. Oh no, it is the wrong one. I believe it actually should be. Yeah, this is supposed to be 1 over. So yeah, if you make a mistake, you can just go in here and delete the constraint that you want to delete. Move it over slightly, and then just reconstrain properly. Let's constrain it again. Excuse me. So there. Okay, and final corner of this top side. So let's just move this over and see what holes we have to work with. Okay, so let's do this. I believe this one will work. Oh, it's constraint, of course. It's constraint. Constraint. I believe it's this one. Let's try it out. Ah, it works. All right. Then 2. Bye. Okay, that worked. So I'll just rotate over and do this side. Let's move this. That one's done. Just figure out where the holes are. Okay, maybe this one. Ah, yes. I'm getting lucky here. Getting the right holes. Let's do this one. Okay. And I believe it should be this one. Selected? Yes. Selected, and then, no, not the green dot, the axis. Oh, so you see how it didn't give the preview? That means it was wrong. So let's retry that. Might be this one. Yes, it was that one. And there you go, it worked. And now this one, can't move either. Do the final one. Okay, so let's think it's going to be this. Constraint. So let's rotate it and see. Ah, yes. Okay, worked out well. Zoom in if you can't get the axis, and then there you go. Apply. And that's how you make the cube that I made. Make sure you save this. Save it to wherever you are saving it to, and no, not to save. Save as. Um, let's save that. Yeah, to my thing, and let's just call it cube. Cube sorta. Let's save it, and the sorta is because it changed the view. Let me go back to as it was shaded with edges. There you go, beautiful. And let me show you why it's sort of. Because if I do the measure tool, you will see that the distance from here, not the gussets, but the VersaFrame, that face to that face is actually 18, while the distance from, let's just remeasure, from this edge to this edge is 17. What? Yeah, 17. Oh, I must select the whole. It's all right. I can just reselect. It's 17. You may have seen, may not have seen, in the glimpse. It's 17. So it's not exactly a cube, but the point is the point that assembly is, this is how it is. These are the main tools. And you may be wondering, why didn't I do it on the other sides? Well, because it's not necessary. There's already two on each one of them. On each corner, there's at least two, which attaches all three of them together in some way. Because this right here, this VersaFrame, is a common between these two, and the gussets are holding it to this. So you don't need to add a third one. You can if you want for more structural integrity, but it's kind of redundant if you're just making it just for the point. Um, so yeah, let's say I'm going to show another tool that is useful. Let's say you're making a file, part or assembly or anything, likely part assembly, and you want to export it so that other people can see it. So you'd want to export it as a step file. You'd set a CAD format, and then you change this to step file. Step files are very useful because uh, they are a universal CAD file. I mean, one of the most universal that I've seen at least. And they're used in, they are like, I'm sorry, not used, but I mean they are converted by many different softwares for their own. Like SolidWorks can convert step file to SolidWorks. Inventor can convert step files to Inventor files, and there's many different softwares, CAD softwares out there that use step files to make to like share stuff, and it's the common ground for all softwares. So you just do that, select where you're gonna put it, name the thing, save, and then you'd upload it, send it, whatnot to wherever it is. But the thing is, when you make a step file, it will have all the things that you had in this. Um, Let me just open up. Let me find that. Open up the step file. And to open it up, you would have to do a very specific thing in Inventor. Let me show you. This is not it. Um, let's go back into project. And in here, you'll see, look, it's, oh, yes, the step file. It's going to have E. If you press on it, it won't really do anything. You really can't do anything there. So there are many different, oh, it's doing something weird. So that's the thing. You do not open it by clicking on it like it's a normal file. You open it by, okay, yes, like if you would open a normal file, you press this, then open. But we're going to be opening a step file. So let's go into all files. Let's FRC and there. So now you select this step file right here. And then Press select and then press open. So now it is going to open as though you had downloaded from Vex Pro or whatnot, and then you'll be able to see it. Um, so you want to make sure that you have all the files also sent as well. A better way to do it would be, so when you're sending this as a step file, make sure you do a pack and go, I believe. That's what it's called. Cat format, no. Share, yeah, no. Oh. I'll show that in a later video then to figure out because there is a way to have everything all in the same thing, all in the same file. It becomes a bigger file, yes, but it is very helpful for other people to use. Um, okay. Yeah, that'll be in a later video, likely next or the one after. So that's been it, guys. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, thoughts, feedback. What do you think I should do next? And see you guys in the next video.